Alright, this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today with another exciting episode for you. In this episode, you will learn information about blending and juicing that you never heard before. This is basically the latest information from the latest science comparing blending to juicing. I know a lot of people may have seen videos before about blending versus juicing, and some people say blending is better because it keeps the fiber. There'll be plant-based doctors that say you shouldn't juice because you remove the fiber and there's nutrients bound to the fiber, and I'll be discussing that in a little bit. But there's also people that say juicing is better than blending because you remove the fiber and you can get a faster uptake of some of the nutrients in the juice. And we're going to be diving into several published studies in the latest microbiome science to show you guys the truth about blending versus juicing. But before we do, I want to show you guys a special promotion going on right now. I really had to make a video about this topic because right now Kuvings is having their lowest price sale of the entire year. Normally they only do this deal, which is 30% off during Black Friday. But right now they are literally doing Summer Black Friday to drum up sales. And right now, only until August 16th, Kuvings is offering a whooping 30% off their juicers, their blenders, or anything else they sell. That means the Kuvings Auto10, my favorite Kuvings juicer at this time, because you can expand the hopper into the world's largest hopper juicer that you go load up with more produce than any other home juicer on the market, guaranteed. That being said, Kuvings only recommends you guys use one hopper attachment. It is not designed for more than one hopper attachment, and using more than one hopper attachment or extension may void your warranty. That being said, I have videos using 3 hopper extensions, links down below to that video so you guys could watch it. Anyways, right now the Kuvings Auto10 with 30% off, you'll be going to be saving about $220 off. That's going to make this machine a little bit over $500, which basically blows away the price of any other juicer out there, including the best-selling J2, the Hurom, and other juicers out there. So if you're looking for a juicer with the largest hopper and that standard juicing screen right now until August 16th, I guarantee the Kuvings with 30% off is the best deal you're going to find. A lower price, super long 15-year warranty. You get the sorbet screen, a true smoothie screen, and the juicing screen along with it. And of course, I'd always encourage you guys to order the extra hopper extensions. That's why I really love the Kuvings Auto10. So this is a slow juicer. That being said, while I do like the Kuvings slow juicer for a juicer that has a juicing screen, but also the largest hopper, the reason why I love the Kuvings CB1000 vacuum blender, and the reason why I use it myself, is because it is the easiest vacuum blender and most convenient vacuum blender to use. You literally press one button, it'll basically, the lid will shut, it'll start the vacuum process, it'll blend, and due to the asymmetrical bottom of the carafe and the improved blade design, most smoothies can be done in 50 seconds without the oxygen in there, and it pulls a very high amount of oxygen out. I think it was like 75% of the oxygen is removed before blending, and it only takes 15 seconds to do that due to multiple vacuum pumps in the motor base. And then when the smoothie is done, it releases the vacuum off the lid. That's a problem with other vacuum blenders. You have to lift the tab to lift out the vacuum, then you got to hold the tab up while you're pulling the lid off. With this, it automatically releases the vacuum, and then the lid opens up to let you guys know it is completely ready to go. So that makes it the easiest to use, and the reason why I personally use it in my home is because I find it the most efficient vacuum blender due to the blade design and the carafe style. It basically chops things up to a finer particle size in less time than other machines. Plus, I really love the square carafe that is quite easy to clean. And right now, once again, until August 16th, you're going to save 30% off. This is normally a $2,000 blender. Right now, during the promotion, it'll be like $13.99, saving you guys $600 off. Now, guys, is the time to buy the CB1000 if you've been waiting for it, because this low price rarely ever happens. It'll probably happen again likely during Black Friday, but invest in this blender now so you and your family could start drinking healthier smoothies today instead of months from today. Kuvings also has convenient payment plans. If you guys want to get any of these deals, use the link down below, bit.ly/Kuvings Juicers, and make sure you guys use a coupon code, will pop up right there, DJ30, to save the 30% off through August 16th. Now, after August 16th, you'll want to use the coupon code DJ, which will still save you guys a whopping 10% off the Kuvings products. Now, when you guys use these coupon codes, not only will you get the lowest publicly available price, Kuvings will also share with me a small part of the sale so I can continue to make these educational videos for you guys and share with you guys the in-depth science that nobody else online shares with you, because I'm the #1 juicer and vacuum blending expert. So thank you so much who will use my coupon code. So the first new science I want to show you guys actually relates to your microbiome and blending versus juicing versus eating. Specifically, we're talking today about fruits whole. And this is very important information that I've come across a while back, but this is the first time I'm having it in a public video. And basically what there is in, in fruits and vegetables and other plant foods, right, there is fiber. And fiber is within a fiber matrix, and within that fiber matrix is the locked up nutrients in that fiber matrix. So that's something to remember. And when you guys use a juicer and you juice an apple, you will get the apple juice with the soluble fiber. That's a fiber that dissolves in the juice. And when you get the pulp out, you're getting mostly the insoluble fiber that comes out as the roughage. So you're losing a percentage of the fiber when you're juicing. That being said, you are keeping some of the fiber depending on what you're juicing. I'll put a link down below to my video where I discuss the amount of soluble and insoluble fiber in different plants. So for example, pineapple is probably the worst thing to juice because it only has 10% soluble fiber. So when you're juicing pineapple, you're losing 90% of the fiber. That being said, when you blend up your produce, you think, yes, I'm keeping 100% of my fiber. And actually in another study, we'll learn how that is actually not true either. But when you blend, you also break open the fiber matrix and destroy the fiber matrix, which then, our bodies see that food a little bit differently. And there's pros and cons of this. So I've created a few infographics here to basically illustrate this concept. The first one we'll throw up is right here, and it is simply titled The Fruit Fiber Matrix, How Nature Controls Digestion in Whole Fruit. So you can see part number 1 is nature's built-in cage. Fiber keeps nutrients trapped within the plant cell wall. And there's insoluble fiber. Intact fiber matrix is basically like a sponge-like web if you want to put some kind of look on it. And there's gelatinous soluble fiber in the web. There's locked-in fruit sugars and trapped antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, as well as phytonutrients in this built-in cage or intact fiber matrix. Now, when you eat an apple, right, you chew up this fiber matrix, and some of that cage is broken, and then you absorb some of the nutrients, right? If you chew your food like a bite of an apple and you chew it in a mush, right, like we give babies baby food, we're basically annihilating this fiber matrix as much as our teeth can do, which is it can be pretty efficient if you don't just chew 2 times and swallow, right? You're leaving whole chunks go down, and then you're not going to get the nutrition out of it, right? So if you choose everything into a mush, you're going to break down the most fiber matrix, but still a lot of it is going to be whole, and then it's going to go through you. So what is the benefit of eating a more intact fiber matrix? Well, you're going to get slowed absorption, which is going to limit the instant insulin spikes, which is going to prevent a sugar rush when you eat fruits whole. You're also going to get improved satiety because you're going to feel longer from a single fruit, because now it is in larger kind of chunks and it kind of fills you up more quickly. You're also going to have better gut health because the fiber reaches the colon in an mostly undisturbed format in more whole pieces. So now you can feed your microbiome that more whole, complete fiber that is not as disturbed. And you're going to basically get complete nutrition as nature has intended, because it protects delicate vitamins until the point of absorption, because we're chewing at a very low RPM with our mouths. So when you eat whole fruit, in your stomach, we have the small intestine and the large intestine. In the stomach, things go through rather slowly because the food is whole. It contains all the fiber. And then your large intestine has your gut microbiome, and the gut microbiome thrives because of the whole fibers that are mostly still intact. In addition, in your small intestine, you get gradual sugar release and controlled nutrient absorption. So it's slow and gradual over time. As you can see in area number 4, sustained release of whole fruit based on peer-reviewed studies. So your blood sugar is definitely more stable over time, as well as your nutrient absorption is more stable over time. That being said, one of the downsides of eating whole fruits and vegetables, especially if you don't chew them well, is that you may not be unlocking all the nutrients that you can, when you just chew it manually, than if you use some kind of equipment to basically rupture more of the cell walls. So you just learned how when we eat whole fruit as the standard, because we would eat whole fruit, and back in ancient times we had no equipment that we can process our fruits or vegetables with. I am glad we live in modern times, because now we can use modern equipment to take our health to the next level. So the next infographic we're going to pop up in the entire screen is this one right here. And this one is called the Vitamix blending impact, or actually any high-speed blender, and how the matrix disruption and retained fiber affect digestion. So you can see here in the picture now the fiber matrix is now shattered, right? In the blender, the blades spinning at high speed can create friction and heat, blow open the fiber matrix, and it disrupts the physical web of fiber. And then what happens is the nutrients are exposed. But the challenge with a standard Vitamix and other standard blenders is, while it is chopping up and turning the nutrients inside out, as one famous infomercial said way back in the day, there's literally air being sucked into the blender, and as the nutrients are being exposed, the fiber matrix is being torn apart. Those nutrients and delicate phytonutrients are exposed to air, which then can lessen the phytonutrients. So what happens when you drink a smoothie? So the smoothie is digested more quickly than when you eat an apple, but more slowly than when you juice it. So in the small intestine, there's a slower controlled release of nutrients. That being said, you do get a bigger blood sugar hit in some cases, depending on what's being blended up. Like if you're blending up like berries with seeds, that can add more fiber into the mixture, which then can actually slow down the sugar absorption. But if you're juicing, but if you're blending, things without the fiber, just like bananas don't have seeds, unless you're blending seeded bananas, which are quite rare, that can increase the absorption. So, these things are not black and white. There's a lot of nuance in the science. Now, the blended mixtures, are mostly digested in the small intestine, but then all the fiber gets down to the large intestine, and the smoothies provide an altered substrate. So this is very important to remember. Although we're keeping most of all the fiber in a smoothie, it is disturbed. So now all the fibers have been chopped up, the fiber matrix has been destroyed, and now our microbiome, our bacteria in our microbiome will digest it differently. Maybe some different microbes will like smaller particle size than others. Maybe some of the different microbes will really go for the more broken open particles that may be good or bad, depending on if you have, beneficial, or commensal bacteria in you. So it's treated differently by your microbiome. So this is a very important point to consider. Of course, you're going to get a greater sugar spike in a blended smooth fruit smoothie than in eating the whole fruit. So you can see over here, science-based comparison, you can see the greater sugar spike. That being said, one of the benefits of a smoothie over eating the whole fruit is that now, because you are blowing open more of that fiber matrix, making more nutrients bioavailable, now you can actually get a higher level of uptake of certain phytonutrients and vitamins because of the more broken open structures when all the nutrients were locked inside, okay? So yeah, so blending could be good, but to me, as you'll learn in a minute, the main reason for traditional blending in a Vitamix is that you can lose 2 to 3 times of some of the oxygen-sensitive nutrients, which is one of the last studies we'll cover. All right, the next infographic we're going to throw up is this one right here, and this is actually how juicing fruits and how disturbing the fiber matrix changes digestion, when you're juicing fruit. So, you know, I'll be the first one to tell you, in my younger years, I did juice a lot of fruits. And now looking back at that, that was an error that I made, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have listened to my elders. Some plant-based doctors have told me that I should not be drinking fruit juice, but I didn't want to listen because I was on the fruit sugar kick that it's good for you. That being said, you know, I believe people should limit their 100% fruit juice consumption. At least if you're going to drink fruit juice, dilute it with at least half vegetables minimally. I would like you to see using 20% fruit only to make your vegetable juices taste palatable, so you will drink them. These days, like this morning, I drank a vegetable juice with 0 fruit in it, and that is my goal these days, to not drink any fruit juice. Instead, eat the fruit whole, which would be best, and sometimes I will actually vacuum blend the fruit. At least I'm keeping all the fiber when I blend. All right, so juicing destroys the fiber matrix, and you can see the picture here. The fiber matrix is disrupted, it's smashed and separated. But more importantly, why juicing is good is because it frees the biomolecules, vitamins, minerals, and polyphenols. But on the negative side, it also frees the fruit sugars, the glucose, fructose, and sucrose, that now can be more quickly absorbed and will give you a greater blood sugar spike. And in the dry pulp bin, once again, you're getting the insoluble fiber. In the clear juice glass, you're getting the soluble fiber. So if you're juicing like papaya, is known to have lots of soluble fiber in there, as well as things like the cactus fruits that are in season right now. That being said, the main benefit of juicing is because you're separating out the insoluble fiber from the juice. Now those phytonutrients, such as when you juice carrots, that beta carotene will kind of get absorbed more quickly and get elevated to a higher level in your bloodstream. This can be very important to cancer survivors or people that want to remain disease-free through common diseases that affect millions of Americans due to poor diet. And this is proven in studies. I have videos on this topic specifically before, where I go over studies on the carrots. That being said, with juicing fruits, your stomach gets pretty much immediate emptying, because the liquid just goes right through, and your stomach is able, the little villi in your stomach basically extract the nutrients from a liquid form very easily. That's why your blood sugar could go up, because sugars are absorbed more quickly. But if you're juicing non-sweet fruits, such as, you know, peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, celery, leafy greens that don't have a lot of sugar, right? Those nutrients are also more quickly absorbed. That's why I recommend juicing specifically leafy green vegetables, stem vegetables such as celery, non-sweet fruits such as peppers, cucumbers. And also, I personally also believe that juicing root vegetables, although they can have some amounts of sugar content, are still beneficial because they can be so high in beneficial nutrients. So my favorite root to juice is jicama. I also like to juice carrots. Usually the non-orange carrots, whenever possible. The purple carrots are a lot less sweet than the orange ones. I also like to juice beets as well. They're rich in betalains. The carrots are rich in farcarnol. These are very important phytonutrients that are that can help with suppression of different diseases that are out there, health challenges, right? So that's why I do it, so I can increase the carotenoid content, the betalains, beta-cyanins in my food, and they can be a protective part of me. All right, so anyways, the juice goes right through your small intestine, which is good because you get a greater absorption and faster absorption. It's bad when you're drinking too much fruit juice. I'll have another video probably likely on basically fructose intolerance and how much fructose intolerance you can take. I recently saw a video where a guy drank, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 quarts of watermelon juice in a day, and to me he's he's exceeding his fructose tolerance, which most people won't ever tell you about or talk to you guys about, but this is like in the science, it's legit. So I mean, if you are drinking fruit juice, you want to definitely limit your fruit juice. Published studies show that you shouldn't drink more than 250 milliliters or about 8 ounces of fruit juice a day, and I see people just downing, you know, quarts and quarts and gallons. You know, this, in my opinion, is not the best idea. Of course, you know, if you're going to drink if you're going to drink quarts and quarts, if you're going to drink cans and cans of soda, probably drinking cans and cans of juice is a step in a better direction. But actually, I want you guys not even to do that. I want you guys to just go straight for the non-sweet fruits and vegetable juices that are even more beneficial. All right, so anyways, when you juice in your large intestine, there are fewer nutrients that reach the colon because you've separated out the majority of the fiber. You do keep some of the soluble fiber in the juice. Some of the soluble fibers can feed your bacteria in your gut, but then once again, these are fibers that are now just totally freed from the matrix, and then different bacteria will probably enjoy those fibers instead of ones that are in the matrix. And whether those bacteria are good or bad, is a whole different discussion topic, and everybody's microbiome needs different kind of, like things in it, or I'll say, prebiotic fibers in it, whether they're the soluble fibers in the juices or whole fibers from potatoes or resistant starches or whatever. So, my opinion is that these are not the best things to feed our microbiome. The juices, I have known people that have gone on juice fasts for, maybe 180 days or 3 months, and then after they're off their juice fast, they try to eat food again, and they can't digest food anymore. That's because, when you're drinking juices, you are selecting for certain bacteria that love the soluble fiber or the sugars that are making it through your small intestine and your large intestine, right? And then those ones are percolating. Those ones are filling up the apartment building in your gut with all the space, and now when you try to eat some food, some sweet potatoes, potatoes, other healthy plant foods, you cannot digest those foods because the bacteria that used to digest those foods have checked out because you haven't been feeding them for like 6 months, right? So this is why I do not recommend long juice fasts. I recommend drinking juice every day as part of a healthy diet because, in the morning I drink my juice. I also eat oatmeal, eat beans, eat fruits, eat vegetables, eat salads, and I'm getting a combination of all these different plant phytonutrients, phytochemicals, vitamins, minerals, and fibers in different forms throughout my day. So the impacts of drinking the fruit juice, you're going to get rapid insulin spikes, once again, because you have separated out the juice from the insoluble fiber. You're also going to get altered gut health because less fiber reaches the colon, affecting the microbiome. You're going to get loss of satiety, because the juice is going to go right through you. Doesn't activate your stretch receptors because there's like very little fiber. There's a soluble fiber, but no insoluble fiber. But you also will get higher initial bioavailability of the free nutrients. That being said, in most fruits, they are not super high in those phytonutrients that I like to talk about. Maybe the berries are an exception, but if you're juicing berries, I'm going to say you're wasting your money. Berries are so expensive. They're just better eaten whole, or even better just vacuum blended so you can get 100%, because when you're juicing berries, you're going to get a percentage out in the juice of the liquid, but you're going to throw away a lot of the fiber, and a lot of the nutrients from the berries, because they are so soft, are still in the fiber. And most people juice just large fruits that have a lot of sugar content without a lot of nutrients. So for example, people say like, oh John, I'm juicing watermelon for my lycopene. Well, did you know that like tomatoes have more lycopene than watermelon, and they don't have the sugar either? So just juice more tomatoes. And especially when juicing tomatoes, I recommend juicing the cherry tomatoes instead of the large ones because they have the more skin area, and more skin area means there's more nutrition, because most nutrition in fruits and vegetables are in or near the skin. All right, so anyways, number 4, science-based comparison. As you guys can see, you're going to basically get a blood sugar uptake over time. You're going to get a big spike. That being said, on the same token, you're also getting a nutrient absorption pattern of a higher quicker nutrient absorption. That's if the produce you're juicing contains nutrients, and of course that's why, as I will say again, I like to juice foods with high phytonutrients, things with unique plant compounds. I was juicing ashitaba earlier this week. It's a stem vegetable that I grow, also a leafy green vegetable, but it contains these plant phytochemicals called chalcones, right? If you juice broccoli, you're going to get some of the isothiocyanates in the broccoli. If you juice allium family plants, you're going to get some of the different properties in the allium family that are so healthy for us, right? If you juice celery, you're going to get different kinds of celery salts. The carrots have farcarinol, the beets have the betalains, and so all these can be absorbed more quickly, so you can support your body through its healing process, whether you kind of have a health challenge or you just want to stay more healthy. So, once again, juicing and blending are both two-edged swords. What's the best between them? Honestly, I'd say do them both, right? You want to juice your leafy greens and stem vegetables that don't have a lot of sugar, and also juice your non-sweet fruits. So like yesterday I drank 32 ounces of sweet pepper juice, which is amazing. I should have probably put sweet peppers all and then like one little habanero. That would have made it over the top because the sweet pepper juice wasn't super sweet. It was just no sugar in it. It's kind of neutral. And so I would say juice your leafy greens, non-sweet fruits, as well as roots. And then what I would say is if you want to eat fruits, right, you can eat them whole, which I did today. I had some white organic nectarines, which are amazing. You could also, of course, if you don't want to eat them, then I would recommend basically vacuum blending them, which we'll talk about in a second. Not just blending, but vacuum blending them. And of course, eat them whole. Eat fruits and vegetables whole. I also recommend, besides eating things whole, blending fruits. I also will blend my greens too, but I prefer to juice them. You know, you want to eat salads, eat your greens and fruits fresh and whole and raw. The other thing I really love to do now is to, prepare in the Instant Pot and pressure cook some of my vegetables, especially vegetables that I cannot eat raw, such as purple potatoes, such as mushrooms, and beans. Most beans cannot be eaten raw either, so I like to cook my beans as well. So, I'm mixing up all the different ways I'm getting plant nutrients into me because I don't know what my body needs. Some people's bodies can't digest things when they're whole. They could digest it when they're juiced. Sometimes, like when you heat process things in the Instant Pot and the pressure and the heat blows open cell walls and makes nutrients more bioavailable without the oxygen. So you're going to preserve more of those valuable phytonutrients, and maybe you could digest heat processed foods better than blended smoothies. This also depends if you have some kind of like bowel challenges going on too. So I just encourage you guys, honestly, just to experiment with all the different ways and don't just think this way is bad or that way is bad. Do them all and see which one you gravitate towards, Depending on the specific food that I'm thinking about eating, I'll process it in different ways. It's rare that I take my ashwatthana stalks that are like celery and I will ever blend them because they're kind of hard and fibrous and it's gonna make a real thick smoothie. I have, I usually juice them. I'll also just chew them on them raw, which is kind of fun. They have a really nice, sweet kind of taste to them. But so I encourage you guys to experiment with the different food textures and different foods and eating them in different ways. Sometimes I will vacuum blend carrots, I'll juice carrots and also cook carrots and I'll eat them raw. So I'm getting carrots in all the different ways. And the question is, I'm gonna select for certain nutrients, and what's going to happen is every way I process the carrot, certain nutrients are going to increase, certain nutrients are going to decrease, and then I'm going to just do all different ways so that my body could get the whole gamut of different nutrients. If I'm juicing carrots, I'm losing the fiber, but if I put them in the Instant Pot, I'm keeping the fiber, but then I'm blowing open the fiber. If I'm eating it raw, I'm keeping the whole undisturbed fiber. Blending them, I'm going to disturb the fiber. So, I really want you guys to not just think this is the best or that's the best, but do all the different ways once again and find out what is best for you. All right, guys, so I came across the study today, and this is going to blow your mind, right? If you hear somebody online that say, you should only blend, you should never juice, because when you juice, you lose all the fiber, and when you blend, you keep all the fiber, right? Based on the published science, right, that is no longer correct based on this published study I found. And we'll throw it up on the screen so you guys can see it. This is called Fibrous Cellular Structure are found in a commercial fruit smoothie and remain intact during simulated digestion. So, basically, we'll read part of the abstract. Disruption of the cell wall structures in the smoothie by high shear homogenization led to a 68% reduction in viscosity, 30% reduction in TDF, which is total dietary fiber content, and a 10% increase in SDF, or soluble dietary fiber. So what I just read basically is saying that if you overblend, you can lose up to 30% of the insoluble fiber, but on the same token, you're going to get an increase of the soluble fiber. So isn't that interesting? Somehow that total fiber goes down, but the soluble fiber goes up. All right. So anyways, so you don't have to read through that whole study. I'll post down below. We'll throw up this infographic on the screen here, the whole screen. As you can see, this is the summary of a study, Blending Fruit and Fiber Loss, which was published in the Journal of Nutrition and Food Science, 2017. And the key question is, do smoothies maintain fruit's fiber structure? And in a commercial smoothie, the cellular structure is mostly intact, although smoothie process preserve fibers, cellular structures, similar to eaten fruit, although some are destroyed. So depending on how much you blend, if you blend for 2 seconds, right, more of those fibers are going to be intact. The longer you blend, the more those fibers get disrupted, right? And then it is more thick and viscous, has higher total fiber, and fiber remains intact during digestion. This is in their simulated digestion model in the lab. That being said, if you over blend and blend too long, right, you turn on the blender, you leave the room, you forget about it, you come back, right, high shear homogenization will disrupt the cellular structure. Over blending destroys natural fiber walls, and there was a 30% reduction in total fiber content in a smoothie. So this blew me away. I always thought that, like, when you blend, you keep all the fiber. No, you can damage the fiber so that you actually lose it. And of course, there's a 68% reduction in viscosity, and the smoothie becomes much thinner. So, you know, that's the key point right there. When you blend, is your smoothie still thick and viscous and sticks together, and then when you pour it, it barely comes out? Or when you blend up a smoothie, you do it until a liquid, like if you go to Jamba Juice, and then it pours really easy, right? The thinner your smoothie is, right, the more the fiber is broken up, the more the fiber is lost, right? So, and once again, in this study, 30% reduction of total fiber content. That being said, it did increase 10% of the soluble fiber. Maybe some of that total fiber content got converted into soluble fiber because it got broken down so much. Anyways, the key takeaways of this published study is that smoothies preserve beneficial cell wall structures, unlike fruit juices. Over-processing for long, high-speed blending can damage fiber structures and reduce total fiber. Blend just enough to smooth and maintain the texture. So once again, you don't want to over-blend. You don't want to blend things up too smooth and creamy. I know you guys all like that smooth and creamy texture. You want to leave it a little bit more thick and with some fibers in there so you're not losing the fiber when you're blending. And of course, you know, we didn't even discuss that when you're using a traditional blender that mixes in air, you know, the longer you run it, the more nutrient destruction you're doing. And actually, that's what I'm going to discuss in this last published study. All right, so this last infographic, I basically used 2 published studies. I'll post links down below to them. This one here is entitled Effects of Extraction Method on Antioxidant Properties of Carrot, Apples, and Blueberry Juices. So basically, they ran carrots, apples, and blueberries through either a slow juicer, either a vacuum blender, or a non-vacuum blender. And we'll just read the result of this. And the results of this study show that vacuum blending method had outstanding antioxidant nutrients compared to other juicing methods. So they're saying that basically, you know, even the vacuum blending beat out the juicing for the nutrients they tested in this published study. So let's go ahead and throw up this final infographic I want to share with you guys today. And this is basically how blending affects your smoothie. Basically, Vitamix versus CB1000 or other vacuum blenders. So the Vitamix traditional blending is high-speed blending, whips in high amounts of air and oxygen into your smoothie. And we've all just taken this for granted. We never thought it was a big deal, right? Because that's how smoothies work. That's what blenders do, right? And it was until 2017 when I went to a trade show in Chicago, I saw vacuum blending for the first time from a company over in Japan, and then the Koreans also made the vacuum blenders at that trade show, and I tasted the difference. And when I first tasted a vacuum blended smoothie, the first thing that came to my mind was, I've been blending wrong for the last 20 years, right? And I was like, why didn't anybody tell me this before? Now I'm glad there's science to back up what my taste buds told me when I drank that smoothie for the first time. Anyways, in one of the studies, they tested the dissolved oxygen levels. I've also tested dissolved oxygen levels myself. I'll put a link down below. 2 things Vitamix does not tell you about their blender. One of the things is that it super oxygenates your smoothies, and whatever you blend in there, I tested it with my oxygen meter, dissolved oxygen meter. Anyways, in this published study, they blended apple and blueberries, and it basically put 7 milligrams per liter of dissolved oxygen in the apple and 9 milligrams per liter in the blueberries. And when they use a vacuum blender, such as the Kuvings CB1000, The vacuum blender put in 1.2 milligrams per liter of the apple of dissolved oxygen, and 1.3 milligrams per liter of the blueberry, which is basically 83 to 86% less dissolved oxygen. And traditional blenders will put up to 7 times more dissolved oxygen in your smoothies. So the question is, when you swallow this dissolved oxygen, because when you fill up your Vitamix, you start at this much, and when you're done, the blender may go up to here. You didn't just create food out of thin air, you aired up your smoothie, as my friend Kailash likes to remind me. And of course, another thing my friend Nate tells me is once you go like vacuum blending, you don't go back to traditional blending, because you can no longer stand the texture, because you never knew how good a smoothie could taste when it doesn't have all that dissolved oxygen. The biggest problem with dissolved oxygen is when you drink a smoothie with dissolved oxygen, now you are swallowing a lot of oxygen bubbles, right? These oxygen bubbles now can cause belching, gas, and especially for the women, bloating, and bloat you out, because now you're swallowing all this extra air. And we're not even going to mention how the dissolved oxygen can literally supercharge things like polyphenol oxidase that breaks down polyphenols in smoothies. You may have heard of don't blend berries with bananas, or don't blend coconut flavanols with bananas, right? If you vacuum blend and you exclude the oxygen, those polyphenol oxidase will not work as quickly to dissolve all the polyphenols, which, once again, nobody else will tell you except for me. That being said, in an oxygen-rich environment, all that dissolved oxygen also affects the phytonutrients that you are blowing open during the blending process. So what happens to them? Based on the published study, there are basically about 2 to 3 times more polyphenols and oxygen-sensitive antioxidants when you vacuum blend than when you do not vacuum blend. So when you traditionally blend, you will have lower polyphenols and antioxidants, and traditional blending leads to significant nutrient and color loss due to air exposure. Also, especially if you want to store your smoothies longer. If you ever made a banana smoothie in your Vitamix, you drank it, it tasted okay when you drank it, you let it sit there for a couple hours, then you go back to drink it again, now it tastes bitter, tastes horrible, because bananas have oxidized. Well, if you made a vacuum blended smoothie, number one, when it's right off the machine and you taste it, it's going to taste better than the one that's not vacuum blended. And if you let it sit there a couple 4 hours, you taste it then, it's going to taste identical to right when you tasted it, right when it came off the machine as well. So in vacuum blended, you have higher polyphenols and antioxidants, and vacuum blending preserves vibrant colors and superior nutrient levels. And you know, why are the antioxidants and polyphenols important for us? In my opinion, they are literally the reason why the fruits and the vegetables, along with the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber, are so good for us. It is these properties of the food that gives us the health protection that the plants have made for them based on the environmental stress that they are receiving. So the polyphenols and antioxidants are good for brain health, immune support, heart health, and skin vitality. So it's super important. I want you guys to maximize your nutrient levels, and if you are blending, I encourage you guys to start vacuum blending. If you guys have the money, I would recommend buying the best vacuum blender out there, which is the Kuvings CB1000, based on all my tests. The main two things about it, negatives, is at the high price, which is actually right now, that's not even a problem, because it's 30% off. You're going to save $600 off right now. The best vacuum blender on the market right now. It is going to be $600 off. Make sure you guys use the coupon code DJ30 at bit.ly/KuvingsJuicers. I just don't have the money to buy the CB1000 vacuum blender and buy the best. There are other alternatives out there. If you guys already own a traditional Vitamix, not the Ascent or Venturis models, you can buy a carafe, the Void vacuum carafe with the lid that will fit on your Vitamix. If you already have a Blendtec, you could go ahead and just stick a vacuum lid on your Blendtec to convert it into a vacuum blender. There's also different Tribest vacuum blenders out there, such as the Backspin vacuum blender I've been making videos on, or the Dynapro vacuum blender, and Void Systems even has its own Void Systems vacuum blender as well. And I even have another YouTube channel, OK Raw, where I teach you guys how to buy a $150 blender off Amazon, and you could actually convert it to a vacuum blender simply and easily. I just really want you guys to up your health game, up your nutrient game by vacuum blending if you guys are traditionally blending, and I want you guys to know about the full story behind how juicers and blenders will disturb the fiber matrix and, no longer keep the food the same as eating it whole. I want you guys to minimally destroy the nutrients before you eat the food. That's why I love slow juicing so much, because it does it at a low and slow RPM. And that's why I also love the vacuum blending so much, because you exclude the oxygen before processing your food, so you retain more of those valuable antioxidants and phytonutrients as proven by science, and more importantly are swallowing less air, so you don't have the bloating that is normally associated with smoothies. So now you're actually going to start eating healthier because of it. Alright guys, so I really hoped you enjoyed this episode where I went over several factors. Number one, how processing your food will disturb the fiber matrix and its effects on blood sugar, on nutrients, and your microbiome. Number two, how blending, you could actually lose the fiber in the blender. So don't believe everybody that says, oh, blending is better than juicing. You keep all the fiber. People say you keep all the fiber in blending and you lose all the fiber in juicing, right? They're wrong, because there is so much nuance. Depending on what you're juicing, you're going to keep a percentage of the fiber, right? It could be as low as 10% of the fiber in the soluble fiber. And if you're over blending, you can lose up to 30% of the fiber, which is quite interesting. And now you guys know more information than most influencers that are teaching about this stuff. And of course, you finally learned about the power of vacuum blending and how you can preserve more of those valuable nutrients when blending up your amazing smoothies and not swallow all that oxygen. And finally, I want to just announce one more time the 30% off Kuvings Black Friday sale in the summer, right? This only happens usually during Black Friday. Kuvings is now giving you guys 30% off, so that's going to save you nearly $220 off the Kuvings Auto10, my favorite Kuvings juicer, because I can add on hopper extensions. And I have the largest hopper, links down below in my videos, where I've juiced like several pineapples and watermelons at once with the gigantic hopper in the Kuvings. And of course, my favorite Kuvings CB1000 vacuum blender that I use in my very kitchen when I vacuum blend myself. Right now, $600 off. Once again, guys, DJ30 coupon code bit.ly/Kuvings juicers. Make sure you guys use that coupon code to get the lowest price, and then Kuvings will also share me a small part of the sale so I can continue to do these educational videos, spend my time to do all the research, dig into the science, make the infographics, and present this to you guys, buy my produce that I'm normally juicing, as well as pay my light bill and my amazing video editor so I can get these videos up for you guys. So I thank you guys so much who will support me by using my coupon codes, because hopefully I've helped you out and you want to help me out as well. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, learning information that you're not going to hear on any other YouTube channel, please be sure to give the video a big thumbs up. Also, more importantly, share this in juicing forums, juicing communities, juice fasting communities, people that really love their blending so that they can learn about next level blending, because I am on the cutting edge of the latest science, the latest information, and I always want to get that to you guys, my viewers, so you guys know exactly what I know, so you guys can make the best health decisions for you as well as your family. Be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out any of my future upcoming episodes. You never know what new science I'll be digging into, what new machines I'll be comparing, what new sales I'll be sharing with you guys, so you guys can get the lowest price on the different machines that can take your health to the next level. And make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 900 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys about the different equipment to process your fruits and vegetables and other plant foods in the best ways possible. I'll put links down below to my favorite videos I made about the Kuvings Auto10 with the gigantic hopper, as well as the videos on the CB1000 and why it is my favorite vacuum blender at this time. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.